Statements by members. Déclaration des députés. The honourable member for Brant.
Mr. Speaker, Wilfrid Laurier University's decision to launch a satellite campus in downtown Brantford was a game changer for my community. At the time, our downtown core was in shambles. Laurier restored and integrated historic buildings into a modern downtown university campus. An influx of students followed and new private investments followed them. Today, downtown Brantford is the place to be. Now we are set to groundbreak another game changer, the new YMCA Laurier Recreation Complex, overlooking Harmony Square and designed to reflect the commercial fronts that once lined Colborne Street. The new building will be an architectural landmark. Built into a 3-story drop overlooking the Grand River and raised to provide spectacular views, you won't find anything like it elsewhere. Mr. Speaker, I am proud that our government supported the project and all of the opportunities it will unlock for students, families, and the continued revitalization of my community, downtown Brantford.
The honourable member for Laurier Ste. Marie. Mr. Speaker, last summer the people of Montreal had a great time taking over the St. Lawrence Riverbank at the ephemeral village. This year, Urban Design Quebec, Pépinière & Co., and citizens group Les Amis du Courant Ste. Marie are working hard, very hard, to bring back the collective project of Pied du Courant Village. With an incredible view of the emblematic Jacques Cartier Bridge and the St. Lawrence River, Pied du Courant Village will bring people together and show off the creativity of our local designers. Organizers are inviting everyone in Montreal to contribute to the project in their own way, and I wouldn't miss it for the world. Congratulations to all those who've rolled up their sleeves and gotten involved, and who are working to create spaces that promote our nature and our heritage. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable member for Newmarket Aurora.
Mr. Speaker, during this year of sport in Canada and with the Pan Am and Para-Pan Am Games around the corner, Canadians are applauding their athletes for dedicating themselves to being athletically fit and at the top of their game.
Hear, hear.
Unfortunately for many, staying fit is not part of their daily routine. The town of Aurora has decided to draw a line in the sand and proclaim that they wish to become Canada's most active community.
Excellent.
They plan to get everyone involved with the ultimate goal of building durable citizens who are and remain active their entire lives. Aurora is involving sports leaders, students, seniors, corporations, government officials, and organizations to help the entire town become physically fit, more active, and above all, make this athletic movement sustainable. Over the next 5 years, Aurora will assemble the building blocks to become the most active community in Canada. They encourage everyone to follow their journey online at beactiveaurora.ca.
Excellent. The honourable member for Labrador.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm pleased to rise and recognize Andrew Fury, who recently received CBC's Innovation Award at Atlantic Business Magazine's Top 50 CEO Awards. Andrew was recognized for the major contributions he's made as a member of Team Broken Earth. Team Broken Earth is a volunteer task force which includes physicians, nurses, and physiotherapists from across Canada, committed to delivering and improving health care for people in Haiti. Congratulations to Andrew, and thank you to all members of Team Broken Earth for the work that you do. You make us proud to be Canadians.
Yes. Honourable member for Red Deer.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to recognize two of Red Deer's finest citizens. This past week, Sheila Bannerman was named Red Deer's Citizen of the Year, and Stephanie Abakan was named Red Deer's Young Citizen of the Year. These two constituents exemplify everything it means to be model citizens. Sheila Bannerman has served Central Alberta through a number of organizations, including the Red Deer Public Library Board, the Red Deer and District Museum Society Board, and the Central Alberta Historical Society, and most recently as one of the main drivers of Red Deer's Centennial. Stephanie Abukan has volunteered with the St. John's Ambulance Youth Brigade since she was 12. Stephanie has shown leadership by leading a number of initiatives, including co-chairing the first Hunting Hills High School Bike-a-thon. Stephanie also volunteers with the Red Deer Regional Hospital Centre and plans on continuing to give back to the community by becoming a nurse. Sheila and Stephanie, you truly are model citizens, and I speak for all of Red Deer when I say that your contributions to our city embodies the spirit of our community.
Hear her. The honourable member for Squamish Wanda Fuca.
Mr. Speaker, once again I rise to draw attention to the failings of the Conservatives when it comes to West Coast water protection. When I first began working on water issues in the late 1980s as Executive Director of the Pacific People's Partnership, one of our concerns was the rapidly growing Great Pacific Garbage Patch, at that time as big as Vancouver Island, and now a monster of plastic garbage as large as British Columbia. That's why I was disappointed when the Conservatives reneged on their vote to ban the microbead plastics so rapidly accumulating in our local waters. Residents in my riding, like those involved with the Peninsula Stream Society, are far ahead of governments when it comes to working to protect and restore water quality and fish habitat. That's why I introduced legislation to support local volunteers by restoring federal environmental protection for the Gold Stream, Colquitts, and Souk rivers. I'm also disappointed the Conservatives decided not to support NDP Bill C-638 to make the Coast Guard responsible for derelict vessels and for tracking down the owners to make them pay removal and cleanup costs. We must act now to protect our water, fresh and salt, if not for the fish, if not for the whales, then ultimately for ourselves and our fate on this planet.
Here, here.
Member for Niagara West.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. It's with great pride that I rise to share a few words of what Canadian development work abroad means today. Doing development the Canadian way means helping where we can and because we can. It means responding to those who call out for help and protecting those made most vulnerable by disaster or conflict. Today marks almost 4 weeks since the deadly 7.8 magnitude earthquake struck near Kathmandu, Nepal. In the first 24 hours of the disaster, Canada decisively responded with a $10 million contribution to provide life-saving assistance through experienced humanitarian organizations. We deployed disaster response teams and supported the great work of the Canadian Red Cross in its delivery of emergency medical assistance, including critical maternal, newborn, and child health services to many as 200 people per day. To anyone who lives in this country with the luxuries of security and stability, 200 is not a great number, but to the families who lives have been completely uprooted by this disaster, this number means something great. It means hope, and it means that Canada's help abroad can and will continue to make all of the difference in the lives of those who need it most.
Well done.
The honourable member for Etobicoke Centre.
Mr. Speaker, I celebrate Poland's Constitution Day with Polish Canadians like my parents. May 3rd marked the 224th anniversary of Poland's Constitution, which is the oldest in Europe and second in the world only to the United States. Liberty and democracy were foundations of this document and was regarded to contain dangerous concepts to Poland's Central and Eastern European neighbors at the time of its introduction. Other key principles included the right to rule by majority, secret ballots, religious freedom and autonomy for all people. It established a constitutional monarchy, and it introduced ministerial responsibility to the Parliament. Polish Canadians have brought to Canada their long-standing historic love of liberty and democracy that they struggled so long for. Poland today is free, economically prosperous, and a close friend and ally of Canada. Polish and Canadian troops are presently serving side by side on Operation Reassurance in Poland. On Thursday evening, Poland's Ambassador Marcin Posadzki will host a celebration at the War Museum, and I hope that all members will attend. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Abitibi Bay James Nunavik, EU. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it's with immense pleasure that I rise today in the House to highlight an important date in my riding. Mr. Speaker, Belcourt is celebrating its 100th anniversary this year. First known as Café, it was named Goulet later after the name of one of its residents in 1915. In 1958, it was named Belcourt after the Senator Napoleon Antoine Belcourt, who took a strong position in favor of Franco-Ontarians. To celebrate, there will be a number of activities, Mr. Speaker, including the week, the 3rd, 4th, and 5th of July, where there will be events at the Community Centre in Belcourt. I invite everyone to come to Belcourt to stop in this wonderful village, in this magnificent region, in this magnificent riding, Mr. Speaker. Welcome.
Mr. Speaker. It should come as no surprise that our Conservative government is the only one that stands up for middle-class Canadian families. Through our low-tax plan for families, our government is helping 100% of families with children, and they receive the benefits that they need. All families with children will benefit from our family tax cut and enhanced universal child care benefit. That's over 4 million families, Mr. Speaker. The Liberal leader has admitted that he will take away the universal child care benefit. He will take away income splitting, and he will take away tax-free savings account. Mr. Speaker, Canadians can trust this government to deliver on their priorities, keeping taxes low and helping them keep more money in their pockets. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member for Bruno Saint-Hubert. Mr. Speaker, on Sunday, we celebrated Mother's Day, and today I want to salute the remarkable work of the mothers who've made our country what it is today. I also wish to recognize all the mothers in developing countries who don't celebrate Mother's Day. These women often make do without, and they face oppression and inequality on a daily basis. These are women whose wish is to see their children live in a world based on democracy and equality. I'm proud to be a member of a party that supports these mothers and that believes that Canada's development aid should support women's rights groups with funding, in particular, for family planning and for reproductive and sexual health. Women's rights are a key issue for the NDP, and we will fight for women beyond our borders.
The honourable member for Essex.
Mr. Speaker, constituents in my riding of Essex know that it is fair to provide support that benefits all Canadian families with children. That is why our Conservative government has balanced our federal budget, and now we're helping Canadian families balance theirs. Thanks to the family tax cut and universal child care benefit, 100% of families with children will be better off. But, Mr. Speaker, the leader of the Liberal Party wants to take away the universal child care benefit, he wants to take away income splitting, and he wants to take away tax-free savings account. He even said, and I quote, "benefiting every single family isn't what is fair," end quote. Mr. Speaker, he will raise taxes on the middle class. Our government won't let that happen.
Honourable member for Kingston and the Islands.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Conservatives' new income splitting isn't just unfair, it's so complex even tax experts writing the legislation got it wrong no less than 3 times. To apply for income splitting, Canadians must follow an 85-step process. I saw what looked like an error and how it was calculated, so I asked at the budget bill briefing on Monday night. In response, a finance official confirmed that some families are being shortchanged on their 2014 tax return by as much as $750. The error affects families who qualify for both income splitting and education-related tax credits. The error was in the Ways and Means motions that passed on November 4th and March 25th, and in Bill C-57. The budget bill is the Conservatives' 4th attempt at getting this legislation right. The Liberals' plan for fairness is much simpler. We will replace income splitting in a complex array of programs with one bigger, fairer, tax-free monthly check that Canadian families can rely on.
The honourable member for Lambton, Kent, Middlesex.
Mr. Speaker, the leader of the Liberal Party's high-tax, high-debt plan is a disaster actually for the middle class. The Liberal leader admitted that he will have to raise taxes on Canadians by replacing the family tax cut with a family tax hike. He will take away the universal child care benefit, take away the tax-free savings account, and yes, take away income splitting. The Liberal leader, Mr. Speaker, is a takeaway leader. Mr. Speaker, yesterday regarding taxes, he said that benefiting every single family isn't what is fair. Mr. Speaker, on this side of the House, unlike the Liberal leader, we believe it is fair to provide support to 100% of Canadian families with children, and so we are.
The Honourable Member for Timmins, James Bay.
Mr. Speaker, Conservatives continue to abuse the taxpayers' fund with their massive partisan advertising campaign, and yet it's the Liberals who tell us that they'll stand up for the taxpayer. Wait, isn't that the same party that blew $1 billion on self-promotion when they were in government? So have they turned over a new leaf? Well, hardly, if you look at the Auditor General report in Ontario saying that the Liberals are going to gut the law to create a flood of dumbed-down, partisan advertising for the Liberals, all at the cost of the taxpayer. But then such is Liberal policy. They're for partisan advertising when it's Liberal advertising. They were the party that promised open, democratic... let's not go there. We'll see how this works out. They're the party that supports the Charter, except when they got it with C-51. The party that's now attacking journalists who have the temerity to point out that the Liberal leader can't do arithmetic. Canadians see through this. This fall, they're going to be like the people of Alberta. They're going to vote for the change they want, and this time actually get it.
Mr. Speaker, the leader of the Liberal Party is just in over his head. He admitted that he will raise taxes on people earning less than $60,000 a year by cancelling their expanded tax-free savings accounts and by taking away our family tax cut and instead introducing his family tax hike. Furthermore, he said yesterday that benefiting every single family is not what is fair. Well, Mr. Speaker, he is absolutely wrong. Our government will benefit every single family with children, and that is what is fair.
That's right.
The leader of the Liberal Party, who thinks budgets balance themselves, is clearly out of touch with the priorities of middle-class Canadians. But fortunately, our Conservative government has and will continue to deliver a balanced budget and tax relief for all Canadians.
Oral questions. Questions orales. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, when Ray Novak was first appointed Chief of Staff by the Prime Minister to replace Nigel Wright, Conservatives swore up and down that he had nothing to do with the Senate scandal. But now we learn from RCMP documents that Ray Novak did, in fact, know about Nigel Wright's plan to falsify the Duffy audit report. When exactly did Ray Novak tell the Prime Minister that he knew the Duffy report was doctored?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, obviously I don't agree at all with the very selective and creative reading of material before the courts by the Leader of the NDP. It's Mr. Duffy's actions that are on trial before the courts. The government has provided all information to the RCMP and to the prosecution. We'll continue to work with the Crown and let the court make its own decisions on these matters.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
How much information did they give to the court in the case of Carolyn Stewart Olson, Mr. Speaker? Tout ça commençait avec...
This all began with the Prime Minister's appointment of Mike Duffy to the Senate to represent PEI, when everyone knew, including the Prime Minister, Duffy was a resident of Ontario. The Prime Minister said Duffy signed a statement to the effect that he was a resident of PEI before he was sworn in. If that's true, if that statement exists, why is the Prime Minister refusing to show it to Canadians? He certainly wouldn't want people to think he hadn't told the truth. Right Honourable Prime Minister. Once again, Mr. Speaker, the constitutional rules for senators are clear. We're talking about practices that have been around for almost 150 years, and it's the actions of Mr. Duffy that are on trial, and I will not comment on matters before the courts. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition. Let's be clear, 150 years, Canada, Cavendish, what's the difference? The Chief of the Defence Staff gave the order, even before they were issued, to ignore key recommendations of the Deschamps report. Quote, the current sexual misconduct investigation and justice system will remain unchanged. The definition of harassment will remain in effect. So the status quo, in other words. Was the Prime Minister informed by his Defence Minister of the existence of this order to ignore the Deschamps report on sexual harassment in our military? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. The NDP leader is quoting from a letter that was written 2 months before the report, After the report, the CDS accepted all of the recommendations, and his statements are clear. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
And daughters, these are the people who protect us, Mr. Speaker. These soldiers and their families deserve to know that there will be civilian responsibility and oversight. They deserve to know that we'll fight to protect them the same way they fight to protect us. Will the Prime Minister stand up, do his duty, and tell military leaders that every step must and shall be taken to put an end to sexual harassment and sexual violence in the military?
Mr. Speaker, the Chief of Defence Staff accepted the recommendations from the Deschamps report and is acting on them. In fact, the person he appointed on this, General Whitecross, says that what we are doing is to move out on all 10 recommendations, including number 3, which is an independent, centralized organization. Frankly, the Chief of Defence Staff to quote a letter 2 months before that and apply something else is unfair to the Chief of the Defence Staff and to the men and women in uniform.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
On Monday, Mr. Speaker, this House voted unanimously for the NDP motion to end the discriminatory tax on feminine hygiene products. New Democrats will be moving to amend the Budget Implementation Act to include the change immediately. Now, getting rid of this fundamentally unfair tax represents exactly 1/100th of 1% of the federal budget. Will the Prime Minister do the right thing, support the NDP amendment, and end this discriminatory tax against women right now?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I think the NDP leader was very revealing in that comment, and that he only supports this tax cut because he sees it as very, very small. The fact of the matter, of course, Mr. Speaker, is the NDP's real agenda may be to give tiny tax cuts like that, or raising the GST by some $10 billion on Canadian consumers. That's obviously not acceptable to this government. That's why we cut the GST from 7 to 6 to 5%. We're going to make sure it doesn't go up.
For a middle-class family earning $90,000 with 2 kids, the Liberal plan automatically provides a tax-free child benefit of $490 every single month. That's $2,500 more than the Prime Minister's plan provides every single year. Why is the government providing more benefits to those who need it the least instead of investing in our middle class and those working hard to join it?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the Leader of the Liberal Party says that benefiting every single Canadian isn't what is fair. That's why, of course, he wants to take away from every single family their universal child care benefit, why he wants to take away income splitting, which has benefited both the families and seniors, why he wants to take away tax-free savings accounts. And even after he does all those things, Mr. Speaker, his numbers still don't add up. Canadians are going to be smart enough not to be fooled by that and to stick with the benefits that they actually know are in their pockets.
Prime Minister thinks that wealthy families like his and mine should be getting new benefits, then I look forward to the debates. Our plan increases benefits to $6,400 every year, tax-free. It's been called a new guaranteed income for children in low-income families. That's over $1,000 more tax-free per child to the Canadians who need help the most. Why have the Conservatives instead given more to those who need help the least?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, what the Liberal plan means are tax hikes and massive deficits, plans that don't add up and will result in even more benefits being cut, just like they were when the Liberals were in office. That's why, Mr. Speaker, on this side of the House, we're proud of our record of cutting taxes, balancing the budget, and making sure we deliver for Canadians.
Order. The Honourable Member for Papineau.
Fairness means giving more to those who need it and less to those who don't. Avec notre plan pour redonner...
With our plan to give back to the middle class, a single-parent family with one child and an annual income of $30,000 would receive $533 tax-free every month. A family with two kids earning $90,000 per year would receive $533 per month. Our plan is much more generous than the Prime Minister's. Why is the government continuing to help the wealthy instead of the middle class and those working hard to join it? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, the Liberal leader would take away the universal child benefit, would take away income splitting, which is a benefit for seniors and families. He would do away with tax-free savings accounts. And even at that, his numbers don't add up. The result would be disastrous for families. Families are going to vote for the party that leaves money in their pockets, and that is what we will do. Mr. Speaker, we repeatedly asked the Foreign Affairs Minister if a status of forces agreement has been reached with Iraqi authorities, but he has dodged the question and never given a clear answer. And now we learn that there is still no agreement. What's the holdup? How does the minister explain the fact that there is still no status of forces agreement with Iraqi authorities? The Honourable Minister of Defence. Mr. Speaker, the government has worked closely with our Iraqi counterparts. The Prime Minister and I met with the Iraqi Prime Minister last week in Baghdad. We have very close ties, and Iraq is highly appreciative of the contribution of Canadian forces to the defense of their country. We're going to continue to work on the issue of a status of forces agreement.
Member for St. John's East.
Mr. Speaker, a status of forces agreement is critical to ensure that there are clear rules that protect our soldiers and surround our military involvement in a foreign country. We've asked repeatedly when this agreement will be concluded with Iraq as far back as September.
That's right.
Now it turns out there's no agreement at all, and a meeting last week doesn't just cut it. We're not talking about a one-month training mission here, Mr. Speaker. We're already there 8 months, and Canada's going to be in Iraq, including on the front lines, for at least another year. So why has the minister failed to secure such a vital and basic agreement?
The Honourable Minister of National Defence.
In fact, our government has worked closely with the government of Iraq to ensure appropriate protections for Canadian Armed Forces members participating in coalition operations against the genocidal terrorist organization of the so-called Islamic State. The status of forces agreements, of course, are binding treaty-level international commitments that often take years to develop, Mr. Speaker, and we don't have years to wait. Years to wait to save the Iraqi people from genocide, to save those women from sexual slavery, and to help work with 24 other countries in reinforcing a critical aspect of international security, Mr. Speaker. That's why we're there acting, rather than sitting on the sidelines.
The Honourable Member for St. John's East.
Speaker, the Americans have one, we don't.
Yeah, exactly.
Speaker, the women and men of the Canadian Armed Forces deserve better. Canadians were shocked today to find out that the Chief of Defence Staff issued orders precluding the adoption of key recommendations from the Deschamps report. This would be a betrayal of the victims of sexual assault and harassment who came forward, shared their experiences, and called for change. The Minister needs to exercise his authority and take responsibility. Will he guarantee that the Canadian Armed Forces establish an independent body to handle sexual misconduct, yes or no?
That's a good question.
The Honourable Minister of National Defence.
The Honourable Member for Portneuf-Jacques-Cartier. That kind of attitude from the Office of the Chief of the Defence Staff is quite simply unacceptable, Mr. Speaker. General Lawson's order clearly indicates that in order to change the mindset in the armed forces, the minister will have to step in and do his job. He should immediately implement all 10 recommendations in the Deschamps report. How does he justify his inaction? Will he implement all the recommendations in the report? The Honourable Minister. Of course, Mr. Speaker, the Justice Deschamps report just came out last week. They've already implemented some of those recommendations, and in principle, they've accepted all of them. General Lawson appointed General Christine Lacrosse 2 months ago to manage a team to deal with this very important issue. That is action, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Member for Saint-Lambert. Mr. Speaker, the Conservatives are sticking their heads in the sand at a time when 1 million children still don't have access to childcare. The Week of Action for Childcare is in full swing. All across the country, parents are organizing rallies, stroller brigades, and forums. They're calling for high-quality, affordable public childcare. Will the Conservatives finally come around to the NDP plan to create 1 million childcare spaces for $15 a day or less?
Mr. Speaker, here's the difference between the NDP plan and our plan. Our plan gives benefits to every family in Canada, regardless of how they decide to care for their children, whether they decide to stay at home with their children, whether they decide to use licensed daycare spots, if they decide to use another family member. Whatever their choice is, we respect it. We believe that it deserves support. We're going to continue giving direct support to Canadian families. The NDP would create a multi-billion-dollar plan that would help less than 10% of Canadian families. Ours helps all Canadian families, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. More than 1 million children without a regulated childcare space, nothing to be proud of. It's Childcare Week, and across this country, mums and dads are participating in stroller brigades, picnics, pop-up playgroups, and kitchen table conversations, calling for more affordable childcare. Parents are tired of paying fees that break the household budget. Will the government listen and adopt the NDP plan to provide affordable childcare at no more than $15 a day?
Canadian families are tired of being insulted by the NDP, Mr. Speaker, and being told that if they don't use regulated daycare spaces, they don't deserve support. Canadian families are tired of being told that if a parent decides to stay home, they're not really incurring a cost. Well, Mr. Speaker, they're wrong. They're not listening to rural Canadian families. They're not listening to Canadian families using shift work. Mr. Speaker, they're not listening to families who are staying home with their children. We are listening to all Canadian families, giving every family support, regardless of their choice, because we respect and we trust Canadian families.
Mr. Speaker, it's real Canadian families that are calling for regulated childcare space. It's Childcare Week and all across the country.
Order. Order. We've moved on to the next question. The Honourable Member for Newton North Delta still has the floor. Members need to hold off and let her ask the question. The Honourable Member for Newton North Delta.
Mr. Speaker, the government talks about real Canadian families. Let me tell them that they are wanting affordable childcare spaces. This past weekend, parents in Vancouver marched to demand more affordable childcare. They're paying as much as $15,000 a year for childcare, and they're fed up. The Liberals and the Conservatives have no plan to make childcare more affordable, but the NDP will create childcare spaces that will cost no more than $15 a day. Why not listen to parents and adopt the NDP plan?
The NDP disrespect, they consider a family who is not using a regulated daycare space not a real family. Well, Mr. Speaker, that's not up to the government to decide what is a real family or what is childcare. That's up to the Canadian families themselves. That's up to mom and dad, parents who are the real experts. So, Mr. Speaker, we're going to keep taxes low for all Canadian families who we consider to be trustworthy and worthy of the money that belongs to them. We're going to keep putting money back in their pockets and letting them decide how to care for their children. We will reject the insults of the NDP on all Canadians.
The honourable member for Argenteuil-Papineau-Mirabel. Mr. Speaker, the question is simple, but we can't get a clear answer from the Conservatives. They have a chance now to act immediately to scrap the unfair tax on feminine hygiene products. For 24 years, we've had to pay tax on these indispensable products. At the same time, consumer goods like wedding cakes are exempt. It's quite simply unfair. Will the Conservatives amend their budget bill to scrap this unfair tax once and for all? The Honourable Minister.
Said in this House, this government focused on lowering taxes. We've gone from 7 to 6 to 5% on the GST. The opposition voted against that. Our focus is making sure that taxes are lower on Canadian families, particularly on Canadian women. I wonder why the NDP never supported any of those actions. I encourage them to support this budget and lower taxes.
And the Honourable Member for London French.
Mr. Speaker, if the Conservatives were serious about ending this discriminatory tax, they would commit to amending the budget bill immediately. Women have been paying this unfair federal tax for more than 24 years. So, we thank the Conservatives for voting for our motion. Very nice. But we must not make women wait any longer to end this sexist tax. So, will the Prime Minister allow his caucus a free vote on removing this unfair tax on this year's budget?
Mr. Speaker, if the NDP were serious about supporting families, they support our budget and lower taxes. We've been very focused on making sure that Canadians all experience lower taxes. So that's the GST, 7 to 6 to 5%. That's making sure that we've lowered taxes. In fact, they're the lowest they've been in 50 years in Canadian history. I encourage the opposition, get on board, lower taxes for Canadians so they have more money in their pockets.
The Honourable Member for Random, Buren Seaboard.
Mr. Speaker, the Conservatives have been spending $100,000 per self-serving partisan ad during the NHL playoffs. Each of these ads could fund 30 summer student jobs. While we are sad there are no Canadian teams left in the playoffs, there could be one winner, and that could be Canadian students. Will the Prime Minister commit here and now to redirect the remaining money that was allocated for partisan ads during the playoffs and instead invest it in providing jobs for hundreds of Canadian students?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we're directing money into the pockets of moms and dads across the country. We've increased the universal child care benefit to almost $2,000 for kids under 6 and $720 for kids 6 through 17. But there still are 200,000 people who have not signed up for that benefit to which they are entitled. The advertising, in part, is designed to inform them so that they can get those benefits. We know the Liberals want to take that money away. That's why they don't want Canadians to know about it in the first place. Yesterday, the Liberal leader said, quote, benefiting every single family isn't what is fair. Mr. Speaker, we believe it is fair to benefit every single family, and we'll make sure that families receive those benefits.
The member for Kings Heath.
Mr. Speaker, there's 169,000 fewer jobs for young Canadians today than before the downturn. And while students are struggling to find work, the Conservatives are holding back money that was budgeted for programs to help fight youth unemployment. At the same time, the Conservatives are wasting tax dollars on self-promotional ads during the NHL playoffs. Each one of those ads, that money could fund 30 summer jobs in the Canada Summer Jobs program. So when will the Conservatives stop wasting tax dollars on ads to promote themselves and start helping young Canadians find work?
The Honourable Minister of Employment.
Mr. Speaker, let me read a quote. It is important to communicate with residents across the country. People want to know about the tax credits that are available to them and the job hiring grants. Many parents want to know about the fitness tax credit, for instance, and we need to communicate with Canadians to let them know about the money that is available to them. It is their tax dollars. Who said that, Mr. Speaker? The Liberal member for Brampton South.
Honourable member for Cape Breton-Canso.
Speaker, this Conservative government have become masters at coming up with solutions for problems that don't exist, especially when it comes to attacking organized labor. Bills 377 and 525 sort of come to mind. Benefits that have been fought for at the bargaining table and won. It's obvious that the minister has come to the table with the public servants to dictate, not to negotiate? Will the minister restore fairness into the process and show a little bit of respect for public servants?
Honourable President of the Treasury.
Mr. Speaker, in fact, my bargaining representatives have had close to 200 meetings with union representatives to date. There are 47 other meetings that had been scheduled before the union unilaterally declined to sit at the bargaining table. We have made some fair and reasonable offers, Mr. Speaker, fair and reasonable to the employees, but more importantly, or as importantly, fair and reasonable to the taxpayer, and we will continue to make those offers.
The honourable member for Squamish,
Mr. Speaker, internal RCMP documents obtained under access to information show that the RCMP timed the release of the video made by the Ottawa shooter on October 22nd so that it wouldn't overshadow public hearings on Bill C-51. A Friday release was recommended because, quote, attention on the video will be very high over the weekend, but that the issue will die down early the following week so that the focus can be on the Bill C-51 hearings. Mr. Speaker, did the minister ask the RCMP to delay the release of the October 22nd video?
The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, I have full confidence in the judgment of the RCMP. And while respecting the operational independence of the RCMP, our government shares the view of the Public Safety Committee on which the member sits, Mr. Speaker, and approve the principle of transparency. And on this side of the House, Mr. Speaker, we're not afraid to call a spade a spade. And what took place here on October the 22nd was a terrorist attack. When will the NDP come clear with it, Mr. Speaker?
The Honourable Member for Alfred Pellan. We learned that the RCMP apparently timed the release of the October 22nd shooting based on the schedule of hearings for Bill C-51. This is troubling, Mr. Speaker. This appearance of synchronization between the work of the RCMP and the political agenda of the Conservatives raises a number of questions. And this is my question. It's very simple. Did the minister intervene personally in this decision of the RCMP? Yes or no? The Honourable Minister of Public Safety. Absolutely not, Mr. Speaker. Operational issues fall under the purview of the RCMP, and the committee, the Public Safety Committee, agreed that we need to have a principle of transparency while respecting the inquiry operations, and that is why we need to call a spade a spade. What happened here on October 22nd, Mr. Speaker, was a terrorist attack. When will the NDP look reality in the mirror and step up to the plate to put in place solutions like we are doing? The Honourable Member for Châteauguay-Saint-Constant. The Conservative government is playing a dangerous political game after cutting the care and services for veterans and spent over $700,000 to defend itself against lawsuits brought by veterans. The government is trying to bury Bill C-58 among dozens of other measures with no debate, no testimony in committee, and no consideration for veterans. Why is the government playing partisan politics at the expense of veterans? The Honourable Minister of Veterans Affairs.
Well knows the provisions in Bill C-58 will be going to the Standing Committee on Veterans Affairs for review, even though most of the provisions in that bill were recommended by that very committee last June, Mr. Speaker. He should stop the rhetoric in the House, recognize that some of these recommendations were adopted by all sides, and get behind Bill 58, the Budget Implementation Act, and making tangible progress for veterans and their families.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday in committee, the Minister of Veterans Affairs was extremely economical with the truth, blaming the opposition for the delay of passage of Bill 58 when they themselves introduced the bill and never brought it back. Yet they're shoving it in Bill 59, an omnibus bill, knowing full well that we in the NDP will never vote confidence in the Conservatives. So will the government now agree with our motion after question period to move Bill 58 immediately to committee for immediate review?
Yeah! Mr. Speaker, over the last few months, as we've rolled out new benefits and programs for veterans and their family, that member has opposed and criticized almost everyone, including standing in this House, Mr. Speaker, to criticize a new benefit he recommended last year as part of the Standing Committee, Mr. Speaker. I've made a commitment to veterans and their families that these new benefits will pass before the summer, and whether they're delays intentional or not, I'm not going to allow delays to stand in the way of veterans and their families getting these important benefits. This BIA will pass, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Brandon Shiras.
Mr. Speaker, unlike the Leader of the Liberal Party, our government has put forward a plan to support 100% of Canadian families with children, Mr. Speaker. Can the Minister of Employment please update the House on how our government's plan is providing support for all of those Canadian families?
The Honourable Minister of Employment.
Mr. Speaker, a family tax cut and benefits helped 100% of families with kids. By contrast, the Liberal leader said, quote, benefiting every single family isn't what is fair. That's why he would scrap the universal child care benefit, scrap the family tax cut and income splitting, scrap the child tax benefit, and gut the tax-free savings accounts. But even after all of those clawbacks and tax increases, the Liberal leader is still short by billions of dollars every year. Mr. Speaker, he's not ready, and neither is his plan.
Mr. Speaker, Pic-Mobert First Nation has been working since 1992 to acquire a small 16-square-kilometre parcel of land that will give the community the room it needs to grow. There's no cost to the government, but the delay is costing the First Nation and is holding back projects, including an industrial park. The province has signed, the band has signed, but this government is missing in action. Mr. Speaker, when will the minister sign the agreement that will let Pic-Mobert First Nation grow their on-reserve economy?
The Honourable Parliament Secretary, the Minister of Aboriginal Affairs.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. As the member will know, the addition to reserve process is often a lengthy and complex one. I will speak to the Minister directly about this specific case, but certainly we are working with willing partners in our First Nations communities to advance their economic needs, to advance their economic participation in Canada, and every time we do that, Mr. Speaker, that member and her party vote against it.
The Honourable Member for Abitibi, Bay James, Unionavuk. Mr. Speaker, Aboriginal communities are sick and tired of waiting for a minister that doesn't answer their questions. And yet the Prime Minister promised to work toward reconciliation, and yet all we see from this government is empty rhetoric. What about my bill with regard to respecting the fundamental rights of Aboriginal peoples? The Minister simply said, this is rubbish. Instead of continuing to be part of the problem, will the Minister finally try to be part of the solution? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the highest form of Aboriginal and treaty rights acknowledgement and protection is constitutional protection, and Section 35 of the Constitution of Canada achieves that. Furthermore, the human rights of all Canadians, including Aboriginals, are protected by the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. And, Mr. Speaker, again, every time we bring forward new measures to bring rights to people on reserve, matrimonial property rights on reserve, human rights on reserve, that party and that member votes against it.
The Honourable Member for Churchill.
Speaker, the refusal of the minister to join the RCMP in apologizing for an unacceptable report that termed Idle No More activists as bacteria is another indication of a broken relationship. Instead of taking the opportunity to tell Indigenous communities that they are respected and that this government wants to work with them, the Parliamentary Secretary accused me of not supporting law enforcement. Let me be clear. The RCMP did the right thing by apologizing. The minister, on the other hand, did not. So will he stand in the House today and say he's sorry?
Mr. Speaker, I would like to say that I share the opinion of my colleague. Like her, I confirm that the RCMP did apologize, and that was the right thing to do.
Unfortunately, Mr. Speaker, we want to hear an apology from the Minister of Aboriginal Affairs. He won't apologize, even though the RCMP called First Nations bacteria. He blamed Aboriginal men for violence against Aboriginal women instead of standing with the rest of us in supporting a national inquiry. He accused First Nations youth in New Brunswick who are growing up in abject poverty of being lazy. He told Yukon First Nations that they're not, quote, real governments, Enough is enough, Mr. Speaker. Does the minister recognize that his words are deeply disrespectful and his actions damaging to the relationship with Indigenous peoples?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Aboriginal Affairs.
So, Mr. Speaker, since taking office in 2006, our government has given women living on reserves the same matrimonial rights as all Canadians. We've taken concrete action to ensure that First Nations have the same drinking water standards as those off reserve. We've invested in jobs and skills training which lead to greater First Nation participation in the economy. We've taken action to strengthen the on-reserve election system, increase the level of accountability and transparency required of First Nations government. And, Mr. Speaker, every time we work to improve the lives of First Nations living on reserve, that party votes against it. Why don't they get on board with us in making lives better, the things better for First Nations in Canada?
The Honourable Member for Vancouver Quadra.
Mr. Speaker, the Deschamps external review into sexual harassment in the Canadian Armed Forces had 10 recommendations to address these serious problems. The government fully accepted only 2 of them. In fact, the Chief of Defence Staff issued an explicit order ruling out key recommendations of the Deschamps report before it was released. The Defence Minister has been completely silent for 2 weeks, sitting on the sidelines. Why hasn't the Minister ordered the Chief of Defence Staff to rescind this order and fully implement all 10 recommendations, not in principle, but fully and in practice?
Honourable Minister of National Defence.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the honourable member does herself in this place a disservice by asking such a misleading question, Mr. Speaker, filled with inaccurate premises. Mr. Speaker, of course, we reject any form of sexual misconduct in the Canadian Armed Forces, which is why the Chief of Defence Staff commissioned the independent inquiry from Madame Justice Deschamps. It's why he 2 months ago appointed General Christine Whitecross to lead a team to address this issue. It's why the Canadian Armed Forces has accepted not 2, but once again all 10 of the recommendations made by Madame Justice Deschamps. It's true that the military has not been able to implement all 10 of those recommendations in the last week, but will, Mr. Speaker. They will do so.
Member for West
Mr. Speaker, in her external review into sexual harassment in the Canadian Armed Forces, Madame Justice Deschamps formulated 10 recommendations to address these serious problems. But we have just learned that General Lawson gave explicit orders in February to reject key recommendations of this report before it was even released, and the Minister of Defence remained completely mum. Why has he not ordered General Lawson to cancel these orders and to fully implement all 10 recommendations? The Honourable Minister of Defence. The Honourable member is better than this question, Mr. Speaker, because he was in this House to listen to the answer when I repeated several times that the government and the Canadian Armed Forces accept all 10 of the recommendations made. Not 2, but all 10. And the orders that he is referring to were issued 2 months ago, 2 months before the report was released, Mr. Speaker. The Canadian Armed Forces have been clear. They will implement all 10 recommendations of the report, and we will never accept sexual misconduct in the Canadian Armed Forces.
Mr. Speaker, the Supreme Court has ruled that free and fair collective bargaining is protected by the Charter, yet Conservatives are trying to use their budget bill to undermine this fundamental right. The government wants to give itself unprecedented powers to dictate the outcome of negotiations with the public service. So the question is, why are Conservatives attacking the rights of public servants to free and fair collective bargaining? After all, these are the women and men who provide public services to all Canadians, even to this government.
Well, nothing could be further from the truth, Mr. Speaker. Indeed, we've had close to 200 meetings with various union bargaining agents to date, at which time none of the bargaining agents were even willing to discuss the issue of a better fair, more equitable, more accountable sick leave system. It is at that point that we had the budget, Mr. Speaker, but I have said to the union leadership that I'm willing to continue these discussions, and certainly I will continue to be fair and reasonable for the employees and fair and reasonable for the taxpayer.
The honourable member for Pontiac.
Mind is already made up. We don't call that collective bargaining.
The Conservatives have no respect for workers or for the right to collective bargaining, and yet the Supreme Court is clear. Our charter guarantees this right, but once again the government is acting unilaterally and tearing up this right, which is guaranteed for thousands of workers in the public service. This is certainly anti-constitutional, Mr. Speaker. Why is the government attacking public sector workers' rights to free and fair collective bargaining? Mr. Speaker, as I said, it is important to have a sick leave system that is fair for the workers and for the taxpayers. Of course, we have had some 200 meetings, but we need to find a solution that is fair for both the taxpayers and for the workers.
The honourable member for Winnipeg South Central.
Mr. Speaker, our Conservative government's universal child care benefit and family tax cut are going to help every single Canadian family with children. That includes each and every family in my riding of Winnipeg South Centre. Mr. Speaker, could the Minister of Employment please update this House on our government's plan for all families?
Honourable Minister of Employment.
Mr. Speaker, well, we disagree with the Liberal leader who says that benefiting every single family isn't what is fair. He's very wrong. In fact, our family tax cut and benefits delivers for every family, regardless of their child care choice or their income. Through income splitting, families can save up to $2,000. The universal child care benefit grows to almost $2,000 per child under 6 and $720 for kids 6 through 17. In July, a first lump sum payment in that increased universal child care benefit will arrive, and I encourage all members to inform their constituents to make sure deserving families get the check.
Honourable member for Saint Laurent, Cartierville.
90% of families will receive more with the Liberal plan.
Mr. Speaker, neglected by this government, the Copyright Board cannot fulfill its mission. The average time to render a decision is between 2 and 3 years. Only 2 board seats out of 5 are filled, and the chair's position has been vacant for a year. It seems hard for the minister to find a chair that is competent and conservative enough. When will the minister give the board the resources so it can render sound and timely decisions?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, our government takes great care to ensure that our appointments are of a high quality and a high merit, and this is another example of where we'll be doing that. We've been focused on reforming our intellectual property regime. Our recent budget includes changes to extend intellectual property rights for those in the creative classes in Canada. They're very appreciative of those changes, and we're going to ensure they have the fullest protection possible to allow our creative classes to flourish.
The Honourable Member for Dartmouth, Cole Harbour.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Last week, Major Marcus Brower was informed that his claim for home equity assistance benefits has been rejected. It's devastating news to Major Brower and his family. This Canadian Forces member lost $88,000 on the sale of his home when he was ordered to relocate. These Conservatives have spent almost as much money fighting with Major Brower as it would have to simply honour their commitment. Why do the men and women in uniform in this country have to fight this government tooth and nail for the benefits they deserve?
Mr. Speaker, what I can tell this House is that complying with the federal court's May 2014 order, there was an independent, impartial review that was conducted, and of course we relied on the advice of that independent third-party experts in the conclusion that in fact the market was not depressed.
And the Honourable Member for Kootenay, Columbia.
celebrate National Mining Week, I'd like to reflect on how important the mining industry is to the Canadian economy. In fact, nearly 400,000 men and women are employed in the mining sector, which contributes close to $60 billion to Canada's GDP and 1/5 of Canada's merchandise exports. Can the Minister of Natural Resources share with this House what our government is doing to support this vital sector of our economy?
The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
I thank the member for this question, Mr. Speaker. Tomorrow, as part of National Mining Week, I'll open the Toronto Stock Exchange and celebrate our government's support for the mining sector. In our recently tabled balanced budget, extending the mineral export tax credit, making new investments in geoscience and geomapping innovation, separation technology needed to develop metals such as chromite and rare earth elements located in the Ring of Fire. These measures reduce taxes and lower costs for the mining sector, and they appreciate that. Sadly, the opposition votes against creating jobs, growth, and economic prosperity for our mining communities. Why?
Honourable Member for Rimouski-Nejet-Témiscouata-les-Basques. Mr. Speaker, Les Maraîchers du Quart is an initiative in Rimouski that allows young school dropouts to gain work experience by creating a community garden. They received stable funding from 2000 to 2013. But Service Canada's Skills Link program is undermining this project for a second year running because of delayed funding. Last year, the project was approved in September. But, Mr. Speaker, vegetables have to be planted in the spring. It is the 11th hour. I informed the Minister of this situation 3 weeks ago. Can he ensure that he will respond by the weekend so that these young people can start their work? Honourable Minister of Employment. Mr. Speaker, our non-partisan officials examine each funding application with objectivity and scrutiny. They will examine this file in the same way. And I would like to reassure the honourable member that a fair decision will be made.
Edmonton, St. Albert.
Mr. Speaker, the cornerstone of any democracy is an effective, reliable, and fair legal system which promotes the rule of law and timely access to an independent and properly resourced court. However, Alberta has for some time now had the lowest number of Court of Queen's Bench justices per capita in Canada. And senior Alberta federal prosecutors have been warning for 3 years that increasingly complex cases and a shortage of senior lawyers jeopardizes those cases as delays violate the right to be tried within a reasonable time. With voluminous vacancies both in the Public Prosecution Service and on the Alberta Court of Queen's Bench, this government's so-called tough-on-crime agenda is impeded. When will this government stop taking Albertans for granted?
Honourable Minister of Justice.
First, Mr. Speaker, the honourable member will know, coming from the province of Alberta, that the Public Prosecution Service is an arm's-length organization. When it comes to the staffing of the Public Prosecution Service, I quote their spokesman, Mr. Dan Bryan, who recently says that the Public Prosecution Service has sufficient resources to fulfill its mandate and no cases have been lost as a result of workload. The reality is, Mr. Speaker, almost all of the positions are filled. We've recently hired more with plans to hire more, and the reality is, Mr. Speaker, the Public Prosecution Service is doing great work on behalf of all Canadians.
That concludes question period for today. I would like to draw to the attention of honourable members the presence in the gallery of the Honourable Gordon Wyant, Minister of Justice and Attorney General for the province of Saskatchewan. And the chair has notice of a point of personal privilege for the honourable member for Barrie.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise on a point of personal privilege today. With my recent election as leader of the Ontario PC Party, I stand today to announce that I will be tendering my resignation as the Member of Parliament for Barrie. And it's an emotional but exciting day for me because over the last 9 years it's been a privilege to serve the city of Barrie. It has been one of the greatest honors of my life, and during that time I I thought I would highlight today a few of the success stories that our City of Barrie has seen under this government. On an infrastructure level, I'm very proud to have seen the Health and Wellness Centre built at Georgian College. I've been honoured to see the Allendale Waterfront and South Barrie GO train stations introduced to the City of Barrie, the Dunlop Street Fire Station, the Lantland Lane Community Centre, the Eastview Arena refurbishments, and the Downtown Theatre bringing culture to the downtown of Barrie. You know, this government has brought unprecedented funding to Lake Simcoe. When I first became a member of Parliament, I think phosphorus levels were one of the greatest challenges on Lake Simcoe. I see the member for York Simcoe chairing that because I know he was one of the biggest champions of the Lake Simcoe cleanup, and the member for Simcoe North as well. But we take great pride in knowing that the lake today is healthier than it's ever been, thanks to $60 million of Government of Canada investment in cleaning up Lake Simcoe. Another one of the fine examples of investments in Simcoe County that I take a great degree of pride in is the Canada First Defence Strategy. Very near to the City of Barrie is Base Borden in the riding of Simcoe Grey. My good friend there, I know, is very proud that since 2006 we've seen over $210 million invested into CFB Borden. I can tell you in Simcoe County we take great pride in Base Borden and what it has meant to our region. It's great to see a government that has invested so significantly in Base Borden. Barrie is also home to a very active charitable sector. I think one of my greatest pleasures as an MP has been trying to channel that goodwill to causes that I care dearly about. You know, I think of the Royal Victoria Hospital. 9 years ago, I made it my project to fundraise for the hospital through an annual hockey game. I think of my grandmother who volunteered there for 50 years, and it was known as a blue coat. Any volunteer at RVH is known as a blue coat. But with the community's assistance and through Hockey Night in Barrie, we were able to raise $1.4 million. For the Cancer Centre and for the mental health. And it hasn't just been a charitable hockey game. We've grown that to be, the last 4 years we've had the annual Barrie Waterfront Half Marathon. I know a number of my colleagues have participated in that half marathon. Whether they wanted to or didn't, I managed to rope a few of them into doing it, but we actually have managed to raise $170,000 through the half marathon for causes as important as the David Busby Street Centre, Gildas Club, Autism Ontario, Talk is Free Theatre, JDRF, and this year the race is continuing and it will be in support of the YMCA of Simcoe Muskoka, CNIB, and the Alzheimer's Society of Simcoe County. Another area that I wanted to highlight, outside of my own riding, I wanted to highlight some of my favorite projects in Ottawa. One being work with India. I've had the honour to serve as the Canada-India Parliamentary Association chairman for 9 years, and during that period I've worked with a number of my colleagues on our relationship with India. I've actually had the fascinating privilege of going there 15 times, and in that work we've been able to work on expanding trade with India, educational linkages, energy agreements, and even the opportunity to develop a personal friendship with India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi. You know, one story that I laugh about now is when the member for Calgary North East joined me on the Canada-India executive, I asked him to come to India for a weekend to open the centre in Gandhinagar that was going to be Narendra Modi's prize project as Chief Minister. And you're not supposed to leave for a weekend to go to India, and we had to leave on a Thursday. So I told the member for Calgary North East that it would just be an extended bathroom break. And we got in a little bit of trouble with the whip, but I know the Prime Minister of India today remembers fondly that we made the trip there for practically a day. Another one of my favorite projects in Ottawa has been working with the Tamil Canadian community. As a constituency MP, you learn about issues that you may not know a lot about. I remember in 2009, I had an individual by the name of Ranji Sureshkumar come to my office and cry on my couch about what was happening in Sri Lanka. It's one of the things that I take great honor in seeing how our government has responded over the years to the genocide that took place in Sri Lanka and have been the world's largest critic of what has happened and the human rights abuses that occurred in Sri Lanka. And that's an example of how a community like the Tamil community engaged with MPs, raised the issues, and many of us who did not know a lot then became their advocates and their voice in the House of Commons, and that has been a real honor. And I know that on my leadership, one of the things that I was very honored by, it was communities like the Indo-Canadian community and the Tamil community that stood firmly by my side, and certainly those are friendships and support that I'm never going to forget. The last area in Ottawa that I wanted to mention is the issue of neurological research. One of the things that I enjoyed most in Ottawa was back in 2008, we set up a neurological disorders subcommittee, and it was an all-party committee that I got to serve on, and we had hearings on neurological disorders for 3 years. In that period, we're all there for different reasons. I was there because I saw what happened to my grandmother with Alzheimer's, and there was other MPs from different parties who were there for similar personal reasons. But it was one of the opportunities where I saw how we could work together, how we could have an issue that brings us all together. And in that case, the report that was finally published, we saw in the budget in 2011 that was involved with the additional $100 million for the Brain Canada Trust. And it's moments like that you see why government is so important, why public service is so important. I wanted to thank a few people today. In my final speech in the House of Commons, I wanted to thank my family for their love and support, my late grandparents, Honest Joe and Edna Tascona, who moved to Barrie in the 1940s, and I'm very glad they did. My father, Edmund Brown, mother, Judy, sisters, Stephanie, Fiona, brother-in-law, Chuck, my nephews, Colton and Harrison, for their never-ending inspiration. I also want to pay thanks to my past EDA presidents. I know every MP appreciates having a strong EDA, and I benefited from some great presidents, Alison Eadie, Trudy Waldinger, Larry Pomfret, Bruce McGregor, and Gary Perkins. I also want to thank my staff. We all know we can't do our jobs without the staff members we have. Their knowledge, dedication, and professionalism has enabled me to serve the people of Barrie, and I want to thank Heather McCarthy, Sean Bubel, Samantha Flynn, Pat McFarland, and Cindy Bujea. Serving Barrie has been the greatest honor of my life. Barrie will always be my home. The people of Barrie are an incredible part of who I am, and it is with excitement that I start this new journey. And I want to say one thing that I forgot to mention is that obviously I am in debt of our Prime Minister. It's been an honor to serve in his caucus and in his government. I've had the honor to serve as the GTA caucus chairman. And as I leave this House, I am as proud of the Prime Minister's work on behalf of Canada as I was on day one. I think we have a Prime Minister that has made Canada the envy of the world. And And I truly believe that he will go down in history as one of our greatest prime ministers. I am compelled to public service in Ontario because I believe I can make a great contribution there. I believe that Ontario can be the economic engine of Canada once again. I believe we can and must do better as a province, and it's for that reason I make the difficult choice to say goodbye to friends in this House, to say that I will be in public service at a different level, and it's been an honor to sit amongst the quality of individuals in this chamber on both sides. Thank you.
Certainly wish the honourable member well in his future endeavours. Tabling of documents, dépôt des documents, the Honourable Minister of International Trade.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have the honour to table in both official languages the treaty entitled the World Trade Organization Agreement on Trade Facilitation. An explanatory memorandum is included with this treaty.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, pursuant to Standing Order 36.8, I have the honour to table in both official languages the government's responses to 5 petitions.
Dépôt de projet de loi émanant du gouvernement.
Introduction of government bills.
Statements by ministers. Déclaration des ministres. Reports from interparliamentary delegations. The Honourable Member for Dufferin-Caledon.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Pursuant to Standing Order 34.1, I have the honour to present to the House in both official languages the report of a Canadian delegation of the Canada Parliamentary Association respecting its participation to the meeting of the Standing Committee of Parliamentarians of the Arctic region held in Washington, D.C., March 10th and 11th, 2015.
Reports from interparliamentary delegations. The Honourable Member for Leeds-Grenville.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Pursuant to Standing Order 34.1, I have the honour to present to the House in both official languages 4 reports of the Canadian delegation of the Canada-United States Interparliamentary Group. And the first concerns the 68th annual meeting of the Council of State Governments Southern Legislative Conference that was held in Little Rock, Arkansas, United States, July 26th to 30th of 2014. The second
concerns the Canada-United States Mexico Trilateral Interparliamentary Group meeting in Washington, D.C. in the United States of America, December 1st and 2nd, 2014. The third concerns the annual winter meeting of the National Governors Association, the NGA, in Washington, D.C., the United States of America, from February 20th to 23rd, 2015.
Concerns the U.S. congressional meetings that were held in Washington, D.C., United States of America, March 23rd to 25th of 2015. Our group has been very busy lately, and we've been tabling many reports on the fine work of all parliamentarians of the Canada-United States Interparliamentary Group. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Reports from interparliamentary delegations.
Presenting reports from committees.
Presenting reports from committees. The Honourable Member for Dufferin-Caledon.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, I have the honour to present in both official languages the 5th report of the Standing Committee on Citizenship and Immigration relating to Bill S-7, an act to amend the Immigration and Refugee Protection Act, the Civil Marriage Act, and the Criminal Code, and to make consequential amendments to other acts. The committee, Mr. Speaker, has studied the bill and has decided to report the bill back to the House without amendments.
Presenting reports from committees, the Honourable Member for Prince Edward Hastings.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today I have the honour to present in both official languages the 12th report of the Standing Committee on Public Safety and National Security in relation to the main estimates of 2015-2016.
Presenting reports from committees, the Honourable Member for Brant.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have the honour to present in both official languages the 10th report of the Standing Committee on Human Resources, Skills and Social Development and the Status of Persons with Disabilities in relation to Bill C-643, an act to establish National Spinal Cord Injury Awareness Day. The committee has studied the bill and has decided to report the bill back to the House without amendment. And also, Mr. Speaker, I have a second report, and I have the honour to present again in both official languages the 2013 annual report on the administration of the Centennial Flame Research Award Act. This report includes the 2013 Centennial Flame Research Award report submitted by Ms. Sarah Carlton, entitled Clara Hughes, Opening Hearts, Opening Minds, as well as the financial statements of the Centennial Flame Research Award Fund for the fiscal years ending March 31st, 2014 and March 31st, 2015. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Presenting reports from committees, the Honourable Member for Edmonton, Leduc.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have the honour to table in both official languages the 9th report of the Standing Committee on Finance on the main estimates 2015-16.
Presenting reports from committees. Présentation de rapport de comité. Introduction of private members' bills. Monsieur Ravenat, appuyé.
Mr. Ravignat, seconded by Mr. Stauffer, seeks leave to introduce a bill entitled An Act to Amend the Income Tax Act, Post-Traumatic Stress Syndrome. The motion is deemed adopted.
The honourable member for Pontiac.
Merci, Monsieur. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's with pride that I table in the House a bill which was inspired by a veteran in my riding, Mr. Daniel Bélanger. This bill would financially compensate veterans suffering from post-traumatic stress syndrome, and it would make them eligible for an income tax credit for physical or mental disability. I hope my bill will be supported by all members in the House from all parties.
Really has one aim, and that is to help the heroes of our country, those that are suffering from post-traumatic stress syndrome, get some relief, some financial relief for themselves and for their families when it comes to tax time. They deserve it, and we should be supporting this bill as we go forward. I hope to have all the support possible from all members of the House. Thank you very much.
Mr. Ravenat, appuyé par Mr.
Mr. Ravignat, seconded by Mr. Stauffer, moves that this bill be now read a first time and printed. The motion is deemed adopted. First reading of this bill. When shall the bill be read a second time? At the next sitting of the House.
Introduction of private members' bills. Mr. Adler, seconded by Mr. Sweet, moves for leave to introduce a bill entitled An Act to Amend the Criminal Code, Property of Holocaust Victims and Survivors. This motion is deemed adopted. The honourable member for York Centre.
Thank you, Speaker. It's important for me to stand in the House today to present my private member's bill, An Act to Amend the Criminal Code of Canada, Property of Holocaust Victims and Survivors. Speaker, this enactment amends the Criminal Code to make it an offence to sell or purchase personal property that was owned by or in possession of a victim or survivor of the Holocaust for the purpose of willfully promoting hatred against any identifiable group. It is an issue that's very close to my heart and certainly important to my constituents in the riding of York Centre. I hope all members in this place will support this bill. Thank you, Speaker.
Mr. Adler, seconded by Mr. Sweet, moves that the bill be now read a first time and be printed. This motion is deemed adopted.
First reading of this bill, première lecture de ce projet de loi.
When shall the bill be read a second time? At the next sitting of the House. Introduction of private members' bills. Mr. Rathgaber, seconded by Ms. May, moves for leave to introduce a bill entitled An Act to Establish the Communications Security Establishment Review Committee and to make consequential amendments to other acts. This motion is deemed adopted. The honourable member for Edmonton St. Albert.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It is a pleasure for me to rise and table the Communications Security Establishment Review Committee Act. This legislation establishes a 5-person civilian committee to review the activities of Canada's Signals Intelligence Agency. It'll be a technical committee comprised of a full-time chairperson, an information technology expert, a security expert, a privacy expert, and a lawyer with expertise in civil procedure. The committee will conduct statutory reviews, but will also investigate complaints made by Canadians and will report any violations to the Attorney General and the Director of Public Prosecutions for further investigation. The committee may also conduct joint reviews with the Security Intelligence Review Committee and the RCMP Complaints Committee. The committee is empowered to compel persons and documents and also to take evidence under oath. Mr. Speaker, we know that Canada's Electronic Spy Agency works collaboratively with the NSA, farms metadata, and sifts through millions of videos and documents downloaded online. Given that C-51 increases the reach of Canada's entire spy agency establishment without any additional oversight, I encourage all honourable members to support this legislation and defend the privacy rights of all law-abiding Canadians.
Mr. Rathgaber, seconded by Ms. May, moves that the bill be now read a first time and be printed. This motion is deemed adopted.
First reading of this bill, première lecture de ce projet de loi.
And when shall the bill be read a second time? At the next sitting of the House. Mr. McKay Scarborough-Guildwood, seconded by Mr. Valeriot, moves for leave to introduce a bill entitled An Act to Amend the Food and Drugs Act, Microbeads. This motion is deemed adopted. The honourable member for Scarborough-Guildwood.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This bill does indeed amend the Food and Drugs Act to prohibit the sale of personal care products containing pieces of plastic up to 5 millimeters in size. As you know, Mr. Speaker, this has been a subject of some considerable debate here, and the reason for moving the bill at this time is that even though the House spoke passionately and eloquently and ultimately unanimously in favor of doing something, that we've noticed a pattern in the past of motions of the House being ignored. So this will no longer be ignored, Mr. Speaker. The government will have to respond with a response to the legislation itself. I'd encourage all members to support it. Thank you for the opportunity.
Mr. McKay Scarborough-Guildwood, seconded by Mr. Valeriot, moves that the bill be now read a first time and be printed. This motion is deemed adopted.
First reading of this bill, première lecture de ce projet de loi.
And when shall the bill be read a second time? At the next sitting of the House. Introduction of private members' bills. First reading of Senate public bills. Première lecture du projet de loi intérêt public éminent du Sénat. Motions. Motion, the Honourable Government House Leader.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and there have been discussions among the parties. So I do believe that if you seek it, you shall find unanimous consent for the following motion, that during the debate today in Committee of the Whole on the business of supply, pursuant to Standing Order 81-4, no quorum calls, dilatory motions, or requests for unanimous consent shall be received by the Chair, and within each 15-minute period, each party may allocate time to one or more of its members for speeches or for questions and answers, provided that in the case of questions and answers, the Minister's answer approximately reflect the time taken by the question, and provided that in the case of speeches, members of the party to which the period is allocated may speak one after the other.
Does the Honourable Government House Leader have the unanimous consent of the House to propose this motion? Yes? Agreed? The House has heard the terms of the motion. Is it the pleasure of the House to adopt the motion? Yes? Agreed? Agreed and so ordered. Motions. Motion. Presenting petitions. Présentation de pétition. Oh, I'm sorry. The honourable member, this is under motions.
Yes, sir. Sorry to sneak up on you there, Mr. Speaker, but I would like to seek unanimous consent for the following motion, which coincidentally is currently on the order paper standing in the name of the Minister of Veterans Affairs. The Bill C-58, an act to amend the Canadian Forces Members and Veterans Re-establishment and Compensation Act, and to make consequential amendments to another act, be now read a second time and referred to the Standing Committee of Veterans Affairs.
Does the honourable member for Sackville Eastern Shore have the unanimous consent of the House to propose the motion? No, there doesn't seem to be consent. And now, presenting petitions. Présentation de pétition, the honourable member for Edmonton Strathcona.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I have two petitions today, Mr. Speaker, from Calgarians. The first is calling on Canada to ratify the Arms Trade Treaty. They advise us that 500,000 people die a year in arms conflict, that the trade in arms traps civilians in crime, conflict, poverty, disrupts the delivery of humanitarian aid, concerned that Government of Canada continues to approve exports of weapons to places such as Brazil, Colombia, Israel, Saudi Arabia, Nigeria, and so forth, and they are calling on the Government of Canada, who voted for the text of the Arms Trade Treaty in 2013, to sign, ratify, and implement the Arms Trade Treaty. The second petition from Calgarians is calling on Canada to take steps finally towards nuclear disarmament, and they are concerned that over 16,000 nuclear weapons are in existence, 2,000 on alert, that Canada joined 190 states almost 50 years ago in saying that they would pursue an arms treaty. They are calling on the Government of Canada to urgently request the U.S. and Russia to reduce the alert status of their nuclear weapons and publicly affirm its willingness to engage in negotiations in a nuclear weapons convention or an equivalent framework of agreements.
Presenting petitions, the honourable member for Oxford.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have a petition that calls upon the Government of Canada to make changes to the current drinking and driving laws in Canada and to make a change to the Criminal Code of Canada.
Presenting petitions. The Honourable Member for Guelph.
Mr. Speaker, I stand to present several petitions with hundreds of signatures from people in and around Guelph who feel that multinational seed companies are replacing the immense diversity of farmer seeds with industrial varieties through an increasing number of patented seeds, and that UPOV 91 will deter or outlaw the saving and exchanging of seeds between farmers, all of which affects both Canadian farmers and peasant farmers in third world countries. They ask Canada to adopt policies internationally and here at home that support small farmers, especially women, and to ensure the exchange and preservation of seeds. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Presenting petitions. The Honourable Member for Victoria.
Speaker, I have a petition from members of my constituency of Victoria calling on the Government of Canada to work with provinces and territories to implement the NDP plan for affordable childcare in Canada. It notes that 900,000 children of working parents have no affordable regulated childcare space and asks that $15 a day maximum childcare be available to Canadians. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Presenting petitions. The Honourable Member for Dauphin, Swan River, Marquette.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and I am pleased to present 3 petitions signed by thousands of Canadians. The first proposes to update Canada's impaired driving laws. The second is signed by hundreds more Canadians from coast to coast to coast who are calling on Parliament to enact common sense firearms laws by passing Bill C-42, the Common Sense Firearms Licensing Act. Thirdly, it is a petition from Canadians that calls on Parliament to support the Environment Committee's current study on hunting and trapping and asks that the Liberals and New Democrats stop playing their partisan games at that committee. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Presenting petitions. The Honourable Member for Saanich, Gulf Islands.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today to present 2 petitions. The first is from residents in the Vancouver area calling on this government and this House to take whatever steps we can to pressure the People's Republic of China to respect the human rights of the practitioners of Falun Dafa and Falun Gong.